Alright, so how this story model starts off, because it's really just a story model, an outline of a story narrative, is with a single point. Alright, I'm going to draw it here. We're going to use two different colors to signify two different story arcs that actually parallel each other. And in my idea, these story arcs would be chosen by actually one player. And this marker is dead. I will get another marker. Okay, so along this node construction, we have a series of events that helps to break down the story and keep it involved. I was thinking that if we set the character B and character A's power achievements apart, that would help prove a dynamism. So I'm thinking early on, player B would access the highlight of their power right here at this node, whereas player A would access a higher level of their power at this node. So now we have a natural rise and fall of activity for a player to engage with. Let me think here. Further along the story path, there would be a break-off point. You could call it a middle climax area. I was thinking right here at this node, where both characters were together, they would experience some sort of arch-villain making appearance, or a prophecy being further explained. But this line here would start the eventual path for both players to come into conflict at the end. So I called this second layer of identify the second layer of story as player A squared, player B squared, character B squared, character A squared. So that indicates when the power curve for these players levels up in the story. I feel like this structure, So if you look at this graph, I imagined all of these outlying nodes as x1 experiences, where x1 indicates that x1 equals a gameplay moment of experience gaining. So like a character might get to one of these outer node points, and they'll have a quest, or they'll fight bad guys, and it'll be an opportunity for them to gain X1, which is actual character experience building, or like weapon grabs or something. And then for all of these interior nodes, I describe them as X2. And every time the person playing the game comes to an X2 moment, it's where the narrative goes forward, and it goes forward by meeting up with the second playable character. And X2 moments are also moments where equipment can be changed, or level ups would happen. I imagine a lot of cinematics occurring in the X2 area. So I guess for the final point of the structure, we'll talk about the climax. Up here, after the derisive middle conflict occurs, it'll set our dual characters towards a path of conflict. They will cross over, and instead of being A with B, it will be A or B, in which the player playing the game will have to decide which side they are choosing to be on. So that basically explains the meta construction of it explains the constructive element of the story arc. I have a finished model right here that I did earlier. As you can see, maybe this will help to denotate what's going on here. You know, you've got every x2 point labeled in the center, every x1 point as a moment of experience. Here's our middle climax area, or I guess prophecy or changing arena. And then you have your A2 and your B2. And I also imagined that when the characters upgrade to their you know, evolved forms, that we would, because we had player A or character B, because we had character B level up in the beginning first, we would change the dynamic by giving character A the second his evolved form early on, and character B would get their evolved form only near the very end of the game. I imagine character B as the Merlin archetype, character A as the Arthur archetype. So, and then each of those archetypes would play differently. And I imagine in the game construction that I have in my head that a person playing the game would come to one of these nodes and be able to cross over to the character B's storyline, cross over to the character A's storyline whenever they're interested. And as they go up the ladder, they will slowly either favor, you know, character A or character B more, and that'll change their story, or, you know, they can choose them both equally, and that might produce a different ending. So that's basically it for as far as the structure goes. I have a different write-up that I did early on, where I wrote down some notes about how an actual Merlin Arthur story would work out in my mind. I'll probably take a picture of that and let you all see it. But it's this original format I have. This story was first conceived with some friends in the woods. We were talking about a conversation came up where we were discussing the kind of character who would slay 10 dragons and the kind of character who would talk and learn from 10 dragons. And I think as I worked on that idea, I began to see that these were both hero classes, you know, classes of, I don't know, the forms of hero stories, but also very different. And playing that subtle distinction off of each other, I think together would produce an interesting result from a story. Maybe not. But it's really a story arc about exploring the subtle distinction between the kind of hero, a fighter, a slayer, a savior who destroys evil, and a man, or not a man, and a person who tackles evil or an obstacle in a different way. And yeah, and I think anyone who plays through this kind of story arc would be able to tell and explore that distinction. So that's what I have for you today. I'll do a little write-up, and that's what you'll get. Or that's what, hopefully you'll like it. So this has been the Arthur Merlin Hero Paradigm video. Signing out. Okay, so we're going to start with a single point. And I call this point the first occurrence of X. And I'm thinking that this point here would be the beginning of two characters meeting in a story And because it's the Merlin Arthur Paradigm, I would imagine that these two spots are Merlin and Arthur meeting. From there, they both branch off into their own node. I'll get that right here. These two nodes, and you'll see the whole structure is built from these nodes. These nodes are X, 1, both of them, and they indicate a moment in gameplay when the character moves towards, I would say, a quest of action alone, but they meet up at this central point and then split off on their own paradigm path. So you'll see basically the repetition of this formula going backwards and forwards. And I have it mapped out at 12 nodes total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And those are all different experiences in gameplay in which certain variables will occur. I call this side of the trajectory of player B. And this side of the trajectory is the trajectory of player A. And I have written down that in this moment of story, player A and B are homogeneous, are still working in concert. So the story progresses with another node, both sides. And these are moments of X1, which can be quests or instances of gaining power. I was thinking that the central nodes would be locations where the characters could level up. So yeah, they're gonna keep going through these paths of action and reaction, of action and interaction, actually. And let me get my notes.